Hi guys, I'm EVM and welcome back. Now I got sick of doing videos sat in my house during this whole thing, so I thought I'd go for a little drive for this particular one because I'm sick of being inside, quite frankly. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. I'm now sat on my drive, and that's about as far as I have gone in this car since buying it. Right, now, other than about the car itself, the most common question I got when I announced which one I just bought was, how did I finance this car? And the answer to that is I PCP financed it through Tesla themselves. A lot of people came back and said, well, wouldn't it have been cheaper to lease rather than to finance it, to purchase it yourself, if you like? And for me, no, it was cheaper to PCP. At least that's what I figured out at the time. But it did get me thinking, is this a specific car thing? You know, is the Tesla Model 3, the Standard Range Plus is the one I have, is it cheaper for that, or is it cheaper generally? Is there a trend that means that it is cheaper to do one thing rather than the other? I'm going to concentrate solely on electric vehicles here. Obviously it's an electric vehicle channel, but what I've done is look at the broad kind of spectrum of various EVs on the market right now, April 2020, to see if I can figure out if it's cheaper to lease or if it's cheaper to finance it yourself. Now, let's be clear about a few things first. This is about the personal private purchase of a vehicle. If there's any company involvement or putting tax things through books or your business or anything like that, that can change things when it comes to leasing especially. This is just about buying a car yourself, like an average Joe block. So that's all this is comparing here. It's not a business comparison, it's a personal contract hire, for example, in terms of lease, or a PCP finance. I'm also going to use these same terms, so it'll be a 3-year deal, whether it's lease or PCP, and 10,000 miles per year. Not that it really should change the fact that one may be cheaper than the other. So I'm going to use this particular car just because A, I'm sat in it, B, I've only just bought one myself, so I've recently done this, and C, it's the best-selling electric vehicle on the market right now, I believe, is the Tesla Model 3. So I'm going to use this as an example to show you how I've done my calculations, but I have looked at the market as a whole. I've picked various cars at various price brackets to see if there is a trend, to see if it is cheaper to do one rather than the other. Right, so we're going to start off with leasing. What I've done for this particular example, I've got about 5 different quotes for personal contract hire or leasing, over 3 years, as I said, and 10,000 miles. Right, first we're looking at lease, so £4,600 deposit. That's what they all seem to average out at. And the monthly repayments coming at £510 per month. That's for a Standard Range Plus Model 3 with no options. So if you added all that up over the 3 years, so that's £510 times 35 months, and the deposit of, what was it, 4,600, we come to a total of £22,500. That's averaged out over from the quotes that I've got, about 5 or 6 quotes in total. So that gives us a price over 3 years for leasing this particular car. Now, PCP, relatively straightforward in the beginning, but then it gets a little bit more complicated, and let me explain. So I've made it so the deposit is identical, £4,600. This is for a PCP finance of the same car over the same term, directly from Tesla in this case, but obviously whichever manufacturer on about. So £4,600 deposit again, only this time it's £593 per month. And if you add all that together, so that would be 593 times 36 in this case, and £4,600 together, that equals 25,948. So let's call it £26,000 just to make it nice and even. So from the outset, it would look like that leasing is indeed cheaper by £3,500 over 3 years. So that's quite a difference, but it's not quite as straightforward as that with PCP, because with a lease, you basically pay your monthly amount, and then after that term, you hand the car back. It's like renting a house. It's gone once that term is finished. But with PCP, even though you do have the option to hand it back, so you know that is one option there, it should be made clear, you also have the option to keep it, to buy the car, or to get another loan and carry the finance on. financing yourself, there is an asset value in the car. It is still worth something. Leasing, it's never yours, whereas this, if I can sell this now for more than I owe at the end of this agreement, that is mine. That is an asset to come back to me to make this total price over the 3 years less. The hard bit, of course, is to predict what that car will be worth when it's 3 years old and it's done no more than 30,000 miles. This is where we're predicting the future. It's quite difficult, and we are going to have to use some guesstimation. Now, with a PCP, you have the initial deposit, your monthly repayments, and then you've got a big chunk, the final balloon payment, as they call it, right at the end. If you pay that off, the car's yours. If you get another loan and carry it on, then of course the car's yours as well, or you can just hand it back to the finance company. Now, in my experience, and certainly with all cars on the market right now, in terms of electric vehicles anyway, it would be very stupid to just hand the car back. It's very rare that makes sense. Now, back 5-6 years ago, if you bought a car then and you're getting rid of it now, there were a few with maybe battery leases where it did make sense to hand it back. But ultimately, handing a car back on PCP finance, for me, is very, very rarely a good thing to do. I'll come to why later on in the video, but the final balloon payment for this particular car, based on the deposit and monthly payments I've already mentioned, would be £18,585. So basically what that means, I've paid my deposit, I've paid my monthly payments times 36, and now I still owe £18,500. So if I sell that car, whether it's privately or trading it in and moving on, anything I can get above £18,500 is mine. That comes off the total cost of ownership of this car for that 3-year period. So how much in this specific example will a Tesla Model 3 be worth when it's 3 years old and it's done less than 30,000 miles, or no more than? This is quite difficult. In my estimation, I think if you sold it privately and did it all yourself, you would get maybe £28,000 for this when it's 3 years old. Electric vehicles depreciate far less right now and for some time to come, in my opinion anyway, compared to petrol or diesel cars. The supply and demand just is nowhere near meeting what it needs to be, so that's keeping residual values very, very strong. I reckon, as I said, if you were careful enough and you did a good advert and you sold it privately, 28 grand is perfectly achievable. I may be wrong, which is why I'm going to try and play it a bit safe and say, let's imagine that you only get £26,000 for this when it's 3 years old. Bear in mind that this is a, is it £42,500 car now, before the government grant, and in a year or two, and certainly 3, there won't be a government grant, which means all cars are going to go up. By the time this is 3 years old, this car, for this example, there won't be a government grant for electric vehicles, which means they've all gone up in value, which means all the used cars was probably gone up in value as well. So we're kind of looking at a £42,000 car. What will that be worth in 3 years? And I think £26,000 is a low estimate, personally. I always sell mine privately, unless it's very close as a trade-in, because it is more convenient, let's face it. But I always sell mine privately because it's the best thing to do financially. It always baffles me when people don't say, well, I can't really be bothered, you have to do the advert, you have to clean the car, people have to come around and look at it, and I don't know if I can be bothered doing that. When I sold my Leaf a few months ago, I got £10,500 for it. The best trading price I got for that car, not necessarily from Tesla, but from any car I looked at, was £8,600. Nearly, £2,000 more just to sell it privately. Why would you not do that? I mean, if I asked you to sell my car for me, do the advert, do the cleaning, meet the people, you go, well, all right, then I can do that. And I said, I'm going to give you £2,000 just for, just for you. You keep that. £2,000 to sell my car. You'd snap my hand off. But when it comes to your own car, a lot of people don't bother. Anyway, rant over with. Let's imagine, going back to these figures, that you do get £26,000 for this car. And I'll come to if it's lower or higher than that in a second. If we get £26,000, once you've paid off the final balloon payment, that would leave £7,415. So that's how much, once this car is sold and I've paid the loan off, that's how much I've got back in the bank again. So if you take that and knock it off the call it £26,000 nearly, That means that the total cost of this car over that 3 years was actually £18,533. Because, as I say, you've got the money back at the end. There is an asset there to sell. So all of a sudden, again, if I'm right, and you get 26 grand for this 3 years down the line, this car is now, as a PCP anyway, £4,000 almost cheaper to own over 3 years than the equivalent lease deal. So same terms, same mileage, not that that really matters if you're selling the car yourself, but the same terms is £4,000 almost cheaper. That's what, £1,300 per year less. Now, looking at different cars on the market, the Kia e-Niro, for example, I have the same experience. It is cheaper by several £1,000s or possibly more to PCP than lease it. However, and there's always a however, isn't there? That is contingent on me being correct at what I have just estimated this car to be worth. If, for example, what was it? It was £4,000 cheaper. So if this only gets £22,000 after 3 years as a trade-in or private sale, then it's broken even. It's the same price as a lease. So I guess this is where you've got to do your own calculations with whichever you're buying. The lease is easy to figure out. The PCP, you can only know how much that's going to cost you after you've sold it. So you've got to predict the future. Does anybody honestly believe that a 3-year-old Model 3 Standard Range Plus will be worth less than £22,000? I, for one, I don't think it'll be even anywhere near that. I think it'll be closer to 30 than it will 20. So time will tell. Who knows? We're in a very strange situation right now in terms of the economy of the country. But under normal circumstances, I would say that I would get 26 to 28 for this in 3 years. Let's have a look at another one, for example. The Kia e-Niro. The final balloon payment, based on the same things I've done in the Tesla, was £19,159. Now, a lot of people think that that's what the manufacturer thinks the car will be worth in 3 years' time, in this case. And it's not at all. There is no way on the earth that the Kia e-Niro, a car that's nearly £35,000, is going to be worth £19,100 after 3 years and 30,000 miles. It's going to be considerably more than that. Hell, I've seen 9-month-old ones go for almost the same price as a new one because there's just not enough around. They're not building enough of them. Even if they do ramp up production of various EVs on the market, in 2 or 3 years' time, the used market will still be, well, the demand and supply, it's way off. Bear in mind that there's a lot of people looking into EVs right now, whether it's after this cleaner air lockdown thing or the company car tax going to zero. That's going to affect the used market. So there's all sorts of things to guess, and it's quite difficult to predict. But there's nowhere on this planet that you're going to get a 3-year-old e-Niro for 19 grand in 3 years' time. It's just not going to happen. The same for the Model 3, the same for, well, pretty much every other electric vehicle I've looked at. They are going to hold their value very well. The balloon payment that a manufacturer gives you, let's say the Model 3 one, 18.5 grand. That's not what Tesla think it's going to be worth. Manufacturers aren't stupid. They aren't going to want to throw money away. Imagine if this is worth 15 grand and you owe 18. You're just going to hand the car back and you've saved yourself £3,000. Manufacturers aren't going to let that happen. They're not idiots. They want to price that final balloon payment considerably lower than what they think it's going to be worth. So that never happens. If my estimations are right in terms of valuation, even if it's quite off, it's still cheaper to PCP it. The hard bit is it's not guaranteed. Leasing, it's guaranteed, you know what you're paying. And that's it, it's gone. PCP, in my opinion, there's a very, very strong chance, 90% plus chance, that it will definitely be cheaper once you sell that car at the end of the term than leasing is. But there's no guarantee there. So I guess it depends on what's a priority for you. I am more than confident that this will be a good purchase on the PCP as opposed to leasing it. So that's why I went down that. I've done my due diligence, as it were, and I'm happy to stick by it. However, if you think, no, I need a guarantee on this one, then I guess leasing is the best thing to you. That is one good thing about leasing. It is a guarantee. Now, there is one other thing which I feel I need to mention, which puts me off leasing. I'm a big car fan, clearly. I've got a car channel. And I'm one of those that kind of tends to emotionally bond with cars. I like them. I love to drive them. I love road trips. I don't view this as a tool to get to work. I view this as a really nice thing I like to have. It's the one thing I spend more money on than I need to. It's one of my vices, if you like. And I do not have that same emotional attachment. I have had one car in the past which wasn't strictly speaking a lease, but I knew it was just going back after a certain term. And I just didn't care about that car in the same way. I've just spent 3.5 days ceramic coating this car. Videos in the channel. And I would not have done that if this had been a leased version of it. I thought, well, what's the point? Why would I want to spend 3.5 days and £200-300 of materials, even if I did it myself, on a car that's not mine, that's effectively borrowed? It just, I wouldn't have that same attachment to it, because it is literally just like borrowing a car. That is what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, sometimes leasing, there's some ridiculous deals out there. There's a reason why, how shall I put this? The pharmaceutical dealers in a big city near me are all driving around in Golf Rs, Golf GTIs and Audi S3s. It's because there was some ridiculously cheap lease deals going on at the time. Quite often, in my experience, and I'm no expert in this, granted, that's due to an oversupply, or the manufacturer just wants to get rid of a load in one go, so they're doing really cheap deals. That's never going to happen, at least not in the next several years, with electric vehicles. It's not as if they're struggling to sell them. They can't build them quick enough, lockdown aside anyway. So yeah, I can see a reason to lease. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing leasing. But from a purely financial point of view, on a personal purchase, 99 times out of 100 in my experience, it will be cheaper to PCP/HP/cash buy compared to leasing. Right, well, not exactly the most scientific comparison there, but as far as I'm concerned, I believe I'm correct in the fact that I would choose personal financing over personal leasing. So what's your experience? And remember, I'm not interested if you put it through your books or your business. That does change things, and I get that. But have you leased something from a purely private point of view? And I'm talking about electric cars now. Petrol cars are slightly different because, as I said, the amount on the market and the residuals are very different for EVs, so that changes things a little bit. Does the fact that this emotional attachment thing, does that resonate with you, or do you just view a car as a tool and you couldn't care less? I'm going to go for another drive now, back into the garage, and that's it for the week. Still got that new car smell. And here we go. Bing, 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 bing. Yeah, that was fun. I've done more miles walking in these past few weeks than I have in the car. But that's the world we're living in at the moment, so as usual, please stay safe. And hopefully we will get through this. Let me know in the comments what you think. And, well, I'll see you soon. Oh, and if you've got any ideas for other videos that I can do at home, please do let me know. It's getting difficult to think of them. So, yeah, see you soon, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.